Hi, everybody. Welcome to Congruent Webinar Series webinar called Solving the Recordkeeper Lifetime Income Availability Gap in 401ks. Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to cover why lifetime income matters, what are the options, and operate simplicity for record keepers. So really happy that you're all here to join us. I'm your moderator today, Brad Simek, responsible for growth of Congruent's lifetime income solution called Retirement Edge. Retirement Edge bridges the gap between record keepers, annuity providers, and other stakeholders, really to offer choices in the lifetime income space. We're just on a mission to deliver connectivity to income solutions. Before we get started and introducing the panelists, I want to say that this webinar is being recorded. We'll send a video record, an email with the recording over the next few days once we get it packaged up. The microphones are currently on mute. Please use the Q&A button for interaction throughout. If you have any questions, I'll try to get them to Tomiko and Kevin throughout. So, please ask anytime. There will be a Q&A at the end, but just please ask anytime. And I think there's a question button on the bottom. If you have any problems, just try to message me and I'll try to resolve them. So, all right, so let's get started. Lifetime income has had a lot of attention really over the years, and it continues to grow momentum, and the importance of participants having access to lifetime income options, but also the challenges of choosing them, setting them up, maintaining a lifetime income option in 401k plans. So our panelists, they've been leaders in this discussion for many, many years, and I'm happy to have them here with us today. Let me introduce our panelist, Tomiko Tolan. Tomiko Tolan is the founder and CEO of 401k Annuity Hub, an independent service for retirement plan fiduciaries to select and compare options for plan sponsors to offer to participants. An award-winning industry expert on annuities and retirement income, who is known as the Annuity Yoda. She's focused on simplifying the complex topic of lifetime income for over 25 years. Tomiko has held leadership roles at TIAA, Strategic Insight, and CanX Financial Exchanges, the annuity data and analytics firm. She's also co-founder of Income Path and an education fellow for Alliance for Lifetime Income by LIMRA. Thank you, Tomiko, for being with us here today. Appreciate it.
Excited to be here. Thanks.
Our other panelist is Kevin. Thanks, Tomiko. Kevin Lafredi. Kevin Lafredi is Vice President of Income Solutions at Congruent and co-creator of Retirement Edge, the lifetime income enablement platform. He started his career in financial services as a broker with Payne Weber, embracing lifetime income with clients. To create the Annuity Intelligence Research Tool, which was acquired by Morningstar. During his time there, he also trained FINRA examiners. Taking the plunge into DC space, he joined IPX Retirement, a non-ERISA 403B record keeper where Retirement Edge solution was brought to life. Kevin's been in the lifetime income space his whole career and remains deeply committed to advancing innovative and scalable solutions for participants and the ecosystem that surrounds them. Kevin, it's great working with you, and I'm glad you're here with us and Tomiko on the webinar today.
Thanks, Brad. And just a side note, Tomiko interviewed me, it was 25 years ago, almost to the day, about a tool that I was bringing to market, reviewing annuity contracts for auditing contracts. So when Tomiko was at Annuity Market News and ran that. So yeah, very exciting to be back together with her.
It is.
That's great. It is good. And to get started here, I'll tell you, we'll have a little fun. I think, Kevin and I were talking recently about lifetime income and all kinds of stuff like we normally do. And, he reminded me of something we did when I was at Kemper Mutual Funds, Kemper Scudder, in the late 90s. Our marketing people was great. Our marketing people went out into the streets. Our home office was in downtown Chicago. So they had the idea to go out into the loop at lunchtime. You can imagine if you've been in Chicago, there's a lot of people there. And they went out with a couple of them went out with a camera and a microphone, and they asked people what they do or what their plan was for their financial plan after they received their last paycheck. And it was fun and kind of funny, but also it was, very telling. But as Kevin and I were talking about this, it's really clear that this question, which is really still relevant and challenging. It's a relevant and challenging question, and it's been almost 30 years, and it's still so relevant and so challenging. So, that's kind of how we're going to get started with a little fun here, but also to kind of check in and maybe think to ourselves. We're going to do a little man on the street, man on the webinar. So in the Q&A, if you could do this for us, please, to help us get started and see what's on everybody. But in that Q&A button, because it doesn't work with a poll, so we want to do it with the Q&A. Please take a minute to go to that Q&A. If everyone on the call could put an answer in there as to what your plan is after you receive your last paycheck. It'll be in the Q&A, no one will be able to see it, and we'll just try to get a sense of kind of what everyone here is thinking.
Yeah, this is one of those
So
things
just do
where I had a conversation with my daughter who just graduated from college in December and is starting her first, starting in her career on Monday. And we were just visiting my father-in-law and talking about getting old and all that. And she just told us, so I have my plan. What's your plan? My plan is my daughter said she'll take care of us. My wife and I. She said my daughter thinks it would be fun to take care of us. She said there's certain things she doesn't want to do, and there's certain things I don't want her to do. But so that's kind of my plan. So maybe I can sell my annuity that I bought. I don't know. But yeah, some of the questions or some of the answers from this Gutter Destinations Day when they were doing that after the last paycheck question, some of the answers were very telling. Some people just had no clue. They were, a couple of years from retirement, and they were, well, maybe I'll just rely on Social Security. Maybe I'll just take systematic withdrawals. There were some real answers, but like you can tell, there wasn't much thought put into it. Some people had some passive income that they were going to be drawing, living on, but for the most part, people didn't know. And there were crazy answers like, I'm going to move in with my kids and they're going to take care of me. So it's a real question that people have. And our industry has done a great job of helping people accumulate for that event of retiring. And now people need a plan for how they're going to take it after retirement. Are there
Right.
any coming in, Brad?
Yeah, let me tell you that. So, and you're right. There's all kinds of different questions. It's not surprising. I'll read a couple funny ones and maybe well, what last paycheck? So, maybe that's not funny. If someone's going to retire or keep working, right. Tour the country, just draw down. Here's one: draw down on my retirement account balances. Which is good. Draw down for an annuity they own. Keep working. No idea. Thanks for participating in this. I think it hasn't changed much, Kevin, has it? Some of the answers on the street, I think people, whether they think about it or not, Social Security's a couple that are coming in, reduce expenses, things like that. But, I guess one thing to turn it over to you in Tomico, you look at this and they're all across the board. There's tons of different questions, even like the drawdown from the 401k plan. I guess one overarching theme in talking about why lifetime income matters is that even all these plans, even if you have a great plan, no one really knows how long that paycheck needs to last, and then that there's a vulnerability there or a challenge that in that planning of making that drawdown or whatever that strategy is. How am I going to make this last? And I don't even know how long it needs to last. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I like the answer. One of the participants put in coast of Croatia. Sounds like a great place to go live in retirement. So yeah, I think it is not an easy answer. We hope we have some solutions. This industry, not us, not just Congruent, but the industry has a lot of solutions for that. I think we're at 32 that can help with that right now, Tomiko, that you're tracking in the lifetime income, guaranteed lifetime income in the annuity or in the 401k space. I think we'll just get right into one of the slides, the next slides here. We're seeing a change that is occurring in how savings are occurring in the workplace. So Tomiko, you want to tell us about what we're seeing? It's obviously not a new trend. We've seen this for years, but give us some insight.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Kevin. It helps just to see the figure, right? And we don't have to keep it up here forever. But the point here is really that we're losing the support of pensions. Although, frankly, pensions never covered 100% of people anyway. It's just that now DC has really grown tremendously, and most people have access to. I think we're just over 50% have access to retirement workplace savings. And generally, that's DC, defined contribution. And people love what defined benefit does. They love the idea of a pension, but they want the flexibility of defined contribution. And frankly, there are a lot of reasons that this actually makes more sense for the workforce. But we have not gotten to the point where defined contribution plans replace that lifetime income component that people love from pensions. And I really feel like we're at that juncture where, now people are thinking about that more seriously, and not simply as a matter of the right thing to do, but what's necessary for individual businesses.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, and just to briefly go over like the structure of what we're presenting today, we want to talk about the why lifetime income, what's changing in the ecosystem, and then the what are the solutions that are out there, and then the how do record keepers implement it? How do we make these strategies come to life and make these solutions available in the record keeping systems, and what has to happen? So give us some more, Tomiko, about the why for the plan sponsors. Why is having lifetime income in the plans beneficial for plan sponsors?
Yeah, so a lot of times we start by talking about the benefit for the participants and sort of the economic benefits of annuities, which we're happy to talk about. But really, this isn't just a matter of altruism for plan sponsors. And when you talk to those who started adopting a while ago, they were not thinking in a purely altruistic sense, right? As a workforce management tool, having a more robust true retirement plan that helps people actually retire is a great way of attracting and retaining quality workers. The fact of the matter is that hiring is extremely expensive. Another thing that we're learning a little bit more about is that lowering financial stresses in general actually helps to reduce errors in the workplace. And particularly when somebody is working in the healthcare field or transportation, that can be a matter of the human life as well as being very costly to the employer. So this is a dollars and cents issue, not simply, a matter of doing the right thing. It is also the right thing, I think. But and then, giving workers the ability to, retire when they want to retire and not just sort of hang on with their claws. Because if they know that they can retire, maybe they will retire on time for them, and kind of make way for the younger employees to come up. Again, this is an expense issue as well, although it's a challenging one to talk about, I think, for a lot of employers. Also, does having lifetime income align with the corporate goals of the plan? Like, does the plan actually want to retain assets? Now, this doesn't mean that only plans that want to retain assets should have lifetime income or can have it. It actually can go both ways completely, depending on design. But that is one of the goals that aligns really well with lifetime income, as well as just adapting to if you're freezing a pension, or if you froze the pension 10, 20 years ago, now maybe it's time to replace it, particularly if you're competing with firms that offer some form of lifetime income, whether that's a pension, they may, other firms may still have a pension, or they're starting to pull lifetime income in as well. So, I think that competitive pressure is going to get higher over time. We're not really seeing that yet, but particularly in those industries, I would say that that's a bigger issue.
Yeah, I really love the enabling the workers, the workers that have been around for a while, those employees that maybe have higher salaries, where you want to get the new people, the younger people up there and into some positions, helping them retire and giving them the confidence to retire. As we just saw in our own questions here, not everybody has a plan, and so giving that confidence where people do have a plan, where they can say, yes, I am going to draw down from my annuities. And I did see one answer in the Q&A where somebody did have that in there. So that's great. So I think having that is really undervalued in terms of having that in a plan for your employees.
You know what, Kevin, make a good point, and Tomiko too. With that man on the street, we said it hasn't really changed for 30 years, but maybe, Tomiko, your point, what has changed is the plan sponsor focusing more on the workplace risk that they could have potentially. And like Kevin said, one of the answers in our Q&A was, what last paycheck? Well, that's not good for the workforce and for those middle managers or others that are trying to, progress. So yeah, good points.
Yep. So if participants are
Yeah.
trying to if participants are trying to do this on their own and create that stable income, they can try to like create their own portfolio and try to do this themselves. I think we have some discussion on like how do you create that stable income, and is it more economical than trying to than buying an annuity with lifetime income? So Tomiko, I know you've done some research on that topic. Can you give us some details on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, we'll say that annuities are actually one thing that economists agree on. They don't agree on much, but they do agree that it's a very efficient way of fueling retirement. And this is the famous Professor Thaler's annuity puzzle. And the question is, why do people not use something that actually works so well, that economists believe and they know works well. But one thing I wanted to bring up, because I think a lot of times people compare annuities to using a bond ladder. So they say, well, that's something that's pretty reliable. This is actually based upon the use of bonds if you were to fuel retirement to a certain age using a bond ladder portfolio. The relative cost of purchasing an annuity versus doing it through bonds, and how much more it costs by using the bond. So on the far left is in this figure is the annuity cost. And by the way, this is based on data from like September of 2025. So not super recent, but also not very stale. And basically you can see that the longer out in retirement you have to plan, or you want to plan using a bond ladder strategy, the more you have to invest in those bonds in order to create the same level of income. So if you're planning out to age 85, it's an additional 7%. If you're talking age 100, it's 43% more. Now, most people aren't going to live to 100, but some people are going to live to 100. And generally, we're not certain which ones we are. And so this is the reason that it's so much more efficient to use the annuity, because rather than the individual taking on that longevity risk, it's much easier to spread it around among everyone, and it's just more efficient. So, I think this is just helpful to help people understand the comparison between something that's safe and that we're pretty familiar with, the bond ladder, versus an annuity.
And I
Yep.
think this ties into any other type of insurance that's out there. If you were to try to self-insure and you have a small group for healthcare, it's going to be very costly. You're gonna outsource that to a bigger insurance company. As a homeowner, you're not going to try to self-insure your home. You're gonna the law of large numbers. You want to go to an insurance company that you're going to pay a small premium or maybe a large premium these days for homeowners insurance. And yeah, obviously you want your home replaced if something happens to it. And this is the same thing. You want to replace that income and do it in the most efficient way. So yes, you can do a bond ladder, but by having an annuity, you can buy that insurance to give you that income for an extended period of time, a period of time which you wouldn't be able to do yourself because you would have run out of money if you needed the same amount of dollars. So I think yeah, there's efficiencies in what the insurance companies are offering through these annuities that you can't get anywhere else. You get their buying power and the law of large numbers. So it's great
Well,
to
and
see
you're
that.
also you're avoiding interest rate risk, in the case of bonds in particular. So
Right.
that's
Yep.
another thing that you don't have to worry about. And I know people talk a lot about, I mean, there's a lot of other questions of how to manage that retirement income stream. And I don't want to get too caught up in a lot of the granularity on that. But I think it is helpful to make the case that this is a super efficient way of doing it, and it's not suitable for 100% of people, and it's definitely not for 100% of money, but it is incredibly useful
Right,
for
right.
most
And we'll be
people.
getting, we
So,
have a couple nuggets on how that helps a portfolio last longer, and we'll get into a couple of the risks that are truly inherent just to the retirees out there. There's a lot of risks in the financial service, in owning investments and bonds, but we'll cover two of those that are primarily focused to retirees. So I don't know if this is your research, Tomiko, in the Retirement Income Institute. I can't remember
For
where this
the
came from.
license to spend, yeah.
Yes.
So we have a slide on that. It's not my research. I'm an education fellow. It's actually now, which is part of LIMRA. It's the LIMRA's Retirement Income Institute. They've sort of taken over the mission, but the license to spend work has been, I think, incredibly meaningful, because this is not just about the quantitative side, which is what economists tend to focus on. And that's great. And it's true that annuities are more efficient at generating income in retirement. But people spend more when they have that guaranteed income. And that's because they know that there's going to be another check coming in the mail. And it could be pension, Social Security, annuity. But the point is that people spend more. And the entire purpose of a retirement savings plan is to fund retirement and to enjoy that time. And I feel like sometimes this point gets lost. We focus so much on accumulation, and you can't have retirement without saving the money. So that focus on accumulation is natural, but we have not yet given globally, globally in the US, in our system, we have not given participants the tools to create retirement easily. We tell them things like, oh, delay Social Security claiming and bridge it. Well, how? Do we give them an easy button for that? No. I mean, there's so many things, but one of the things we can do relatively easily right now is to give people an additional cushion of lifetime income above Social Security, because most people, Social Security is not going to replace their income sufficiently. And this is exactly the kind of easy button that we need. And it's not the only one. It's not just about lifetime income. I'm very passionate about it, and that's my area of expertise. But I think the holistic package is what we need to think about in terms of plan evolution. And what is it that employers are going to increasingly want to be providing? And this is where we think about the record keepers sort of are part of this, the layers of getting there. And even if we're not seeing the demand explicitly right now, I think we're it feels like things are starting to move. And that's something
yeah.
I just want to address, that one of the things that has come up, we had, some people submitted some questions and concerns about this whole topic. And one of them was around demand. And most people don't understand annuity. So participants aren't going to go, hey, I really want an annuity. We don't
Right.
want to jam it down people's throats. We need to help create an ecosystem where this is an easily available thing that's also more easily understood. We're in the middle of this work. But
Yeah.
helping people understand that, giving them greater certainty in retirement, in that check that's replacing their paycheck, that's going to come next month, that is so huge in terms of giving people the confidence to retire and the confidence to actually extract joy out of that period when they can enjoy it early in retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, a couple things real quick, and Kevin, I don't mean to interrupt you, but one, just I got a couple questions on these slides. I think people are enjoying them, I hope, and I think because they want them. And so I'll just let everyone know, I'll answer the question. We're going to send this out after as well, so we can make them available, right, Tomiko? This your
Yeah.
charts in there, and all this will be inside
Yeah.
there. So just from that, but so we've covered the why, the huge. We could talk about that all probably a whole new webinar, and I think others have. Can we get into like what are the options and structures for this guaranteed lifetime income? I mean, what are the types of products and structures out there, and we choose those? Are there tools out there?
So, but do we want to skip a few slides here, Brad? Is that what we're going to do?
If you want to make a point on a couple, but I know we're going to get into shortly, the structures and then implementing them into the retirement record keeping space.
Yep. All right. So let me cover just a couple things real quick. So there's two risks that we see that are inherent to the retirees, and they involve sequence of returns risk and longevity risk. I'm not going to cover the top item there is that having lifetime income portfolio in a portfolio provides longer lasting income and larger bequests. Tomiko just kind of covered that. There are studies all over the place that show that having lifetime income makes a portfolio last longer, gives them more income, as we just talked about, and still leaves larger bequests. Seems odd that you can have all of that, but it is the research is there. And BlackRock, TIAA, Financial Planning has a ton of articles in their journals, white papers on that. So there's a lot of information on that. Sequence of returns risk is something real that impacts anybody who's in the financial markets. So anybody who has a 401k, they have a potential of retiring at the wrong time. So that means you retire just before the financial crisis of 2008, the Great Recession. If you retired just before that happened and you started getting those negative returns early in your retirement, it's catastrophic if you don't have something like guaranteed lifetime income in your portfolio. It's just that simple. We have a ton of research on that. And then there's also longevity risk, which is if you are one of the lucky ones to live long enough, you can run out of money if you don't have a plan to have like guaranteed lifetime income. So let's go to the next slide and we'll just show some research that just came out. This is not new research. The key point of this is that the dashed line down at the bottom is showing your income, and it's the same if you have annuity income or if you just have a systematic withdrawal program in place by itself, you're going to get the same income. You can set them up to pay out the same amount. But what happens is when you start at 64, at 84, if you just have a systematic withdrawal program with no annuity in your portfolio, your income stops. You've run out of money and you no longer have any income. So that's 20 years. If you have a poor sequence of returns in your portfolio, bad returns early on, you run out of money. If you have the annuity, you see the dark line continues after the dash line, and your income continues. It might get reduced at age 86, it drops down, but it doesn't go to zero. So that's research. Research is great. In the real world, I was a financial planner. I started off at Payne Weber selling annuities there. Not many brokers back in the day sold annuities. But on the next slide, we show how a real life scenario. We had this was a client of mine. They're in their 90s now. 20 years ago, they purchased a variable annuity with a guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit. This started with 225. It did great. The next year went up to 262, and then it dropped and went down to 138. This was just a part of their portfolio. It wasn't their whole portfolio. But they started taking income in 2008, and they started taking, it was a 6% withdrawal benefit, and it was 6% of their benefit base, which had just locked in at 262. So the $262,000 benefit base, they started getting $1,312 a month, and they continue to receive that to this day. So taking out 15,000 when the account value is at 138, it's a pretty good pretty good percentage. It's 11.4% of their account value is what they started taking withdrawals at. And the account value still has money in it. It's at $58,000. So it's done remarkably well to be able to continue after 20 years. But it's going to run out. It's going to run out in a few years. And I'm no longer a broker. Clients are like family. And he still texts every year. He'll text his statement to me. And he's like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Every year, every couple of years, he asks that. And I said, don't worry, you're good. You're going to continue to get that check. As long as Mike or Lillian, one of them is alive, they're going to continue to get $1,300 a month for the rest of their lives. So this is a real life example where they're probably going to run out of money in about 22-ish years or 20 years from when they started taking the withdrawals. And it matches the research spot on. So they didn't retire the day before the financial crisis, and it was a few years before. So that sequence of returns risk impacts a lot of people. How often in a decade do we have a financial crisis happen? Maybe it's not every decade, maybe it's not drawn out, but why take that risk? Why put yourself in a situation where you're going to potentially run out of money in 20 years? It doesn't make sense. Offload that risk to someone else, to the insurance company. So that's the point there on sequence of returns risk. All right, so let's
But
get
I think we all
into.
heard it loud and clear. But look at this, $58,000. The guy's 70 years old and he's getting $15,000 a year. Talk about joyful. I mean, Tomiko, that would be miserable if the call was another way. But yeah, that's powerful. That's awesome,
Yep.
Kevin.
All right, so let's get into the what.
Great
So
story.
what are these? So what are the
Yeah,
different types of solutions that are out there? Um,
yeah.
there's at retirement solutions, and there's two flavors of at retirement, and within that there's subcategories of that. And one of the questions we hear all the time, and people want to know, well, is it in plan or is it out of plan? And I kind of want to address that and at retirement at the same time. Tomiko, I know you have a lot of thoughts on the in plan and out of plan. Did you want to start off and give us your
Yeah.
take on that?
So I'm going to start by saying that there's no agreed upon definition for in plan and out of plan. And what we need to do is actually talk about what it is we are referring to. And so I've had to sort of excise it from my vocabulary, because it means different things to different people. So when people start saying terms, knowing the term is not important. Knowing what they mean is really important. So that's like something that I strongly recommend is really make sure you understand. And it's not, you don't not understand because you're dumb or ignorant. It is because, frankly, everybody's confused about this. So this is one place you can feel that you're smarter asking, what the heck did you just mean when you said that, as opposed to just pretending that you know. So in this case, we're simply talking in general. We are talking about solutions that plan sponsors can choose to add to the plan. That's what when we're talking about lifetime income and places where the record keeper is getting involved, that is what we mean. And at retirement is the set of solutions that are available when people retire or separate. And, it includes annuities that can be kind of just tacked on to the plan, or may come through some sort of platform, or, there are now more innovative solutions like this idea of, say, managed payout that is combined with annuitization. But that is the selection of things that are at retirement. So that I hope that helps clarify, as well as I really hope that I encourage people to ask for clarification anytime they're having a conversation with somebody on this topic.
Yeah, and I think the other point about annuities is not everyone has to be the expert at if you're a record keeper, if you're you don't have to know every nuance of every annuity out there. You do need to know what happens when certain things take place. And we're working on, there's industries, the Spark committees we're working on, nomenclature for just like terminology for the industry to make sure we are using the same definitions and same terminology for different things. But ask us. There's plenty of industry people. We're not the only ones. We have friends in the industry that also do the same thing that we do, and we're here to help you and make it easy for you, so that there is that easy button for being able to offer this to your plans and participants ultimately. So. Yeah, so the what here is so there at Retirement Solutions, there's different flavors of how do I turn my money that I've saved all these years, how can I turn it into an income stream, either starting today or starting some point in the future where I know exactly when and I know exactly how much. Those options are available. They're plain vanilla. They don't have a lot of moving parts to them. If you can go back just one slide, and yep, thank you. So that's the simple annuitization, and those should be on every plan. Every participant should be able to have something like that where they can just say, "Yep, I want to take some of my money and turn it into lifetime income," and they start getting a check from the insurance company directly. It's a rollover event. It's no longer part of the plan, and life is good. And then you have the managed payout strategies with annuitization, where you have maybe a target date fund that's geared for putting together a higher payment stream. One of our partners offers that. And they pair that together with a QLAC, which is just a deferred payment start date in the future. And the target date will, excuse me, they'll pay out for 15 years, and then the annuity will kick in and start making payments in 15 years and pay for the rest of their life. So it covers that tail risk and everything else. So that's a great solution also. But these are all simple solutions that can be put together really and added on and made available to anybody who has a termination event, have separation of service and wants to be able to have some options. So those are at Retirement Solutions. Those are very straightforward and simple. And then we get into kind of like, what are the options that you can accrue dollars in and have payroll contributions
I'm
going to
sorry,
them.
Kevin, can I interrupt you real quick? Kevin, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt you, because you could weave this into your conversation about this next one. Maybe there was a question that came in, and I wanted to interrupt you here because maybe you could answer it, through this, next section here. Wouldn't it be wise to contribute to a lifetime income annuity prior to retiring through my company retirement plan? So does that make sense? I think I understand the question, and maybe this is relevant to this next section.
Yeah, and the answer is, I mean, everything depends. I'm not going to give financial advice here and say you should do that or not do that.
To be a
One of
broker.
I'll put my other hat on
Yeah.
but the decision really comes down to, yes, I think it makes sense if you have that option. One of the reasons why it makes sense to do that during the contribute, while you're contributing, is a lot of the options provide the ability for that income to increase beyond just the amount you put in. Obviously, it should increase if I add more dollars to it, but most have a growth component to it as well. And it might not be as glamorous as what the equity markets have done over the years. Some are tied in a way to, well, most options are tied to more of like a fixed income type of return. So it's going to be more bond like in terms of its return. Different companies have different ways of offering that and making that happen. So it's very attractive in most cases to defer while you're working to these solutions to make that lifetime income amount increase over the years.
Thanks,
Not
Kevin. I
every
think
option
that's what
works the same
yeah.
way. So, some it is very plain vanilla, and maybe there are no increases, or each contribution is tied to what interest rates are at the current time. So, if rates were really low, then maybe contributing during that time wasn't so good because you're not accruing at a great rate for that. So there's a lot of variation, but for the most part, yeah, it usually does make sense because you're getting a growth component to it as well. So
Like,
when we look at the accumulation, go ahead, Tamiko.
sorry, but all fixed income products have similar challenges. Like if the interest rate environment is sluggish, it's sluggish for across the board. So I think the idea here, though, is that it's not just a matter of the quantitative component, but also, I believe, the behavioral one, where our industry has moved so strongly towards really dependence on defaulting for getting people into the plan, getting them into investments. And the QDIA is so crucial now in plan design, and more QDIA options are available that incorporate in some way lifetime income. And that is it partly a matter of accruing a benefit of value, protecting that future income, or even protecting against sequence of returns risk. It really depends on product design. But a lot of that is giving people the assurance that, yes, there's some kind of lifetime income component, and you'll be able to make that final decision at the point that you retire. And that is really like part and parcel with all of these designs that are used in a default, is that ultimately you don't need to fully understand as a participant what's happening in that decade or so prior to retirement, but then you get to retirement and, lo and behold, you have this fantastic benefit. And it's just part of really the workflow because it's something that you were already holding. I think that's something that's really important to lean into, because that's one of the reasons that the conversation has become a lot more vibrant in this area, is the greater acceptance of defaulting, using lifetime income. I do think that labor's advisory opinion on the Alliance Bernstein solution has helped, because it's reinforced certain components of the defaulting as well as the reliance on the investment manager. And I throw this out there. There's tons of different references for this stuff that we don't have time to talk about. Anytime there's something kind of on the granular product side, or some of these other topics, feel free to reach out to us, because this is like our favorite thing to talk about, if you haven't noticed.
Right.
Well, yeah, thanks for answering that. Go ahead.
Tomiko, just to add on to that, about QDIA, and this is something that always shocks me when I see this number. When participants are asked about their target date fund, it's somewhere like 70% of individuals believe that there's some lifetime income component to it, that they're getting guaranteed lifetime income from their target date fund, which for the most part, unless you're in certain solutions, they're not getting that. So they're expecting it, but they're not getting it. So why aren't we giving it to them? And I think
Yeah.
if they don't realize it,
Yeah.
we should be helping them. So.
Well, I think and there are a ton of different options, not one size fits all. And I know we're going through kind of what the options are, but also to give that to them after we wrap up, what the options are. We got to get to, as the record keepers are trying to implement this without major disruption in their, or costs, for instance, in their, current workflows or current, operations. But yeah, absolutely, Kevin and Tomiko, great points. But yeah, thanks for answering that question from our participant there.
Yep. And so we're not going to go through all the options that are available on the accumulation side. There's a lot of them. And fortunately, there's tools out there. Tomiko has one of them with 401k Annuity Hub, which helps us with those options and understanding what they do and how they work from all different angles. But from a record keeper side, it'll help understand what needs to be done there. From the plan advisor side, how it works there as well. Let's go to the next slide and just kind of show Tomiko, I'll let you speak to this.
I mean, basically, I don't want to linger on this. This is part of the deck. This is a giveaway. And this is something I put together just to kind of list all the different solutions that are on my platform. And I created it for sponsors and for advisors and consultants, and frankly, anybody who wants to understand the full scope of what's out there in the market. And there's a lot more to what I offer rather than just a dizzying array of options. But we can move past this. This is part of the slides that people can get access to.
Yeah, it's a valuable tool that can help with the noise. And I think annuities are complex. We can only try to make them less complex. And the fortunate part is all these insurance companies have brilliant people coming up with different strategies to provide a solution that's needed by participants. And we're fortunate enough to see all what those solutions do and how they work and the impact is to the participant. And it's great to see all the variation, and it's great that they're not all cookie cutter the same options. So the problem with that is it makes it difficult for people who aren't in the insurance business to decipher how the heck these things work. And that's what our values are. And Tomiko and I, and Retirement Edge and 401k Annuity Hub and all the other players in this ecosystem, we all do it in a different way to help you. But our goal is to make this as straightforward and simple to work with.
So that's a good segue. Kevin, look at all those logos on there, and each record keeper has many, many, many different plan sponsors, many different participants with all different types of needs. So, that's helpful. And, the 401k Annuity Hub and tools like that are helpful in narrowing down, what's particularly important for one participant or one plan or group of people. But in order to manage and scale the menu, if you will, of lifetime income options that a record keeper needs to make available to meet all those diverse needs, how do we make that as easy as possible? Because, that can seem like a challenge.
Yeah. So this is our commercial. This is where we step in. But I think before we get into like what we're um, what we do, plan advisors, we talked to them, and one of the challenges they have is that they need to make sure they have a prudent process for how they go through and select a lifetime income solution if they're going to add it to a plan. And when they work, with the record keepers that they partner with, they need to be able to have choices. And some are telling us, yeah, we need to have at least three different ones to look at to be able to make that prudent process work. And I would argue that there's other ways to do it, but that's what we're hearing. So, and there is, there is no one size fits all when it comes to lifetime income. There may be solutions. When I was on the retail side, I worked with annuities, and it wasn't like I used one annuity and that's all I used. It was different needs of clients would fit different types of annuities. You had income now, income later. Somebody who needs money right now might not benefit from a fixed indexed annuity that has some really attractive roll-up features and enhancements to the benefit base that credits and gives more impact to someone who is accruing dollars in there versus an immediate annuity that has some better rates and is focused on that. So having different solutions for different participants in a plan also makes sense. So there's multiple facets why a record keeper would want to have more than one connection to an insurance company or solutions. And what we help with is that one implementation with Retirement Edge from a record keeper perspective gives you that many solutions without having to set up a bunch of different connections. And it may sound easy. There may be some solutions in the marketplace. There are solutions in the marketplace that are easy to connect to, and you can connect directly to the insurance company, and they do a great job. And there's APIs, and they're very a lot of them have some great resources and technology teams. But as a record keeper, you have limited bandwidth, and connecting to one may be easy. Connecting to two might be easy, but you start doing, three or four, and now you have to worry about, any change to anything is going to cause a breakage, and now you have to figure out, is it this message to this carrier, and you have all these different jobs running. Make it simple. Have one job that runs and work with someone like Retirement Edge. And there's, like I said, there's others in the industry, but let us help you make that simple. So as a record keeper, you leverage, we're your outsourced insurance desk. Let us be that partner with you. We are easy to do business with. ETDBW. It doesn't roll off the tongue that easily, but you can ask any of our partners, any of our clients, many of them on the call right now. We are in this with you. We don't point fingers. You got something creative you want to do. We're there to help come up with ideas on how to do it. We're there bringing ideas to you, even if you didn't bring them to us, on how we can do things more efficiently. So we have decades of experience with each of our team members, and this is all we do. We come from the record keeping side. We moved into annuities on the non-ERISA 403(b) side, so we understand that for decades, and we understand record keeping and recon and daily reconciliation processes and money movement if needed. So that's something we live and breathe every day. And not only can we handle all the solutions that are out there now, but there's different solutions. Well, I should say, when participants get into the lifetime income, that's only one part of the life cycle of that participant. When they go to annuitize, when they need to take withdrawals, if it's a GLWB, if there's a death that takes place, we're there to work with the carrier to get those lifetime income payments started, to do the identity verification, to make it easy for that income phase to kick in. So part of that life cycle of that annuity, we're there not just in the beginning, but throughout, whether it's daily valuation, sending those values in if needed, and handling all those other extra steps. So
Can I interrupt here real quick?
Yep.
Go ahead. Sorry, because there's a couple questions coming in, and then two might be relevant, and then also relevant to a couple other concepts we're going to cover before we convene. So the two questions, the current one is, what information do record keepers request from insurers, and with what frequency? I think that goes to kind of working with one versus many, and maybe you can touch on that briefly as we're, and we can always do this as well, whoever's asking these questions offline. The other thing is, in the next couple, before we conclude, we're going to touch on portability briefly. What happens when we set up a lifetime income option for a plan with a record keeper, and then the plan sponsor decides to change record keepers? It's basic. There's more to that question, but it's basically portability, I think, is the concept. So
Yep.
I know we're coming near come to some of the final things, but just those two briefly,
Yeah. So
if you don't mind.
yeah. So what information do record keepers request from insurers, and with what frequency? So typically, every participant in an accumulation type of lifetime income solution, there is a benefit base, some kind of guarantee amount that is provided and that can be updated daily based on contributions and activity and growth of how that benefit works. So generally, those record keepers want to be able to display what the guarantee is. So the benefit or the account values are usually handled through NSCC trading, and the valuations are there. Sometimes those are taken offline, and we push the values into the record keeper on a daily basis with an earn transaction, or negative earn. And so we will push those into the record keeper on a daily basis. But we're also providing either APIs or the UI to show how the annuity, what it is, what is the guarantee, how can they illustrate it, how can they see, 60 years old, I've been putting money into this for 5 years. What do I get out of this thing? How do I see it? So having that daily feed so that they can see an updated evaluation of their benefit base is what record keepers want to make sure are available on their systems. So we can help with how that gets displayed and treat it as much as an ordinary CUSIP as possible.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I think that answers the question. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go into the next slide and we'll talk about the portability. So
And we're getting close to Q&A here too. So I know we got a couple important topics to consider, including the portability. So just want to bring that up.
yeah, so the portability, there's three flavors. I got the third one is down below. You can't see it. It's in the notes. But you have simple IRA rollover and you have plan-to-plan transfer. And these are participant kind of portability type of concerns. If I want to take my money out, I'm a participant and I want to roll it over to an IRA at a separation event, you should be able to do that. And that's one type, and we help facilitate that. Usually it just goes back to the insurer, and either they are creating a new version of the product that might be more of a retail version, or some of our partners, you go right into, you stay in the exact same annuity, and it's just now handled by the insurance company. That's really, we like that. The other is plan-to-plan transfer. If the new plan has the same investment, you can move it over there. That's not too common, but we're starting to see that more and more where that's available. And then the third flavor that's not on the slide is the record keeper to record keeper portability. So a plan moves from record keeper A to record keeper B, can those participants move over there? The answer is yes, if the new record keeper has the connectivity to that insurance company and that solution. Again, we've seen that happen, but more than likely, what is going to happen is it might move to a record keeper that doesn't have that portability or doesn't have that connection. And that participant would be forced to roll that out of plan. So I can't remember. It's in Secure Act 2.0. There's a provision in there which allows a record keeper to basically force that annuity, that participant, to roll that out to an IRA and not be stuck with keeping a legacy plan participant with a legacy annuity that they don't maybe offer or don't want to offer in that plan anymore. So there are provisions that allow for that to take place.
Thanks, Kevin. I think for some closing takeaways and, final thoughts, let me just say briefly, I think, we covered the why, and it's clear there's a need for guaranteed lifetime income. There always has been, and it's becoming more popular, even more. Many, many different options. Tomiko showed that slide, and her company helps help with that. And it really doesn't have to be, like Kevin mentioned, very difficult or very costly to set up or maintain these menus. You just need the tools are in place, the regulations are in place. Yeah, there's education and things that still need to be done. Lots of work to be done. We're doing it every day. But now's a good time to really get ready, set your participants up and plan sponsors with this like they need. Before we conclude, I'll give some information really quick for Tomiko and Kevin. But Tomiko, do you have any final thoughts, or Kevin, both of you, maybe any final comments or thoughts before we conclude?
I'll say that I feel like we've thrown a lot of information out here, and it kind of looks complicated, but the reality is it doesn't really have to be that complicated. Particularly for a record keeper, but we do see the trend where record keepers are increasingly pressured to add these options, because other record keepers are doing it. There's already so much movement in that direction. It doesn't mean that you have to offer every single thing that's out there. You just, you come up with some sort of philosophy and say, all right, this is how we're going to do it, based upon requests from plan sponsors, based upon, some sort of design philosophy of what we want to offer. We want to, like column A, column B, column C kind of thing. And it doesn't have to be super complicated. And all these answers or questions are answerable. So I do invite people to reach out, even just for a casual chat, because I love this topic.
Yes. Tomiko, you live and breathe this. So something passionate. We are too, and we love to discuss it. We're not high pressure. We're not gonna like, oh, you got to sign up today. Tomiko may do that to you, but
I definitely will. Yeah, 100%.
No, we love this business, and we've been around it for many years, and we want to see it succeed. We'll help make it less confusing for you, and thank you very much for attending.
Yeah, thanks for attending. In the slides that we send out, some of these slides and things, we're going to have a contact information. But I'll tell you really briefly, so in case you want to do this today or tomorrow, Tomiko can be reached at Tomiko at 401kannuityhub.com. That's TAMICO at 401kannuityhub.com, or her website is 401kannuityhub.com. She's on LinkedIn as well. You can follow her at 401k Annuity Hub. Congruent and Retirement Edge is at congruentsolutions.com. And my email address, if you want to email me directly, we can get to Kevin through me as well, or directly to him, brad.simek at cspl.com. That'll all be in the deck. Love to talk to you further. Anybody that has any further follow-up questions, thank you for joining, and that concludes our webinar. Thanks.
Thank you.